There's a pattern in history that has destroyed every great power that ignored it. A rhythm so precise, it's almost mathematical. And right now, in 2025, one of the world's calmest, kindest, and most stable nations is quietly walking straight into it, step by step, choice by choice, blindly repeating the same 7 stages that ended every empire before it. That nation is Canada. It doesn't look like an empire. No colonies, no conquests, no legions marching across continents. But in every way that matters, wealth, reach, and the illusion of permanence, Canada is following the exact same path that doomed the Dutch Republic, the British Empire, and the Soviet Union. This isn't prophecy, it's pattern recognition. Because history doesn't repeat itself word for word, it rhymes. And if you listen closely, that rhyme is echoing again. Part 1. The Dutch Republic, the first financial empire. 400 years ago, the Dutch Republic was what America would later become. Small in size, enormous in influence. A handful of provinces on the edge of Europe ruled the oceans. They built the first stock exchange, the first central bank, the first multinational corporation, the legendary Dutch East India Company. Their ships connected continents. Their currency, the Dutch guilder, became the world's reserve. They believed they had mastered prosperity itself. Stage 1. Overreach. Their merchant fleets stretched across the world, to Asia, Africa, the Americas, fighting wars to protect every trade route. For a nation the size of Nova Scotia, it was too much. Stage 2. Currency debasement. Wars drain money. To pay for them, the government printed more paper notes than gold or silver could support. Speculation replaced production. Tulips, yes, flowers, became worth more than houses. Then the bubble burst. Overnight, fortunes vanished. Stage 3. The debt spiral. To rebuild and expand, the Republic borrowed and borrowed until foreign debt exceeded twice its income. When trade slowed, interest alone strangled the nation. Stage 4. Loss of productive capacity. The Dutch stopped building. They started buying, importing ships, goods, even food, living off credit, not creation. Stage 5. Social decay. The rich grew richer, the poor starved. Inflation rose. Trust collapsed. By 1710, the world's financial capital, Amsterdam, was a ghost of its golden age. The empire still existed on paper, but its power was gone. The guilder faded, and London replaced Amsterdam as the world's new financial heart. The pattern had claimed its first modern victim. Part 2. The British Empire. Power without limits. Centuries later, the torch passed to Britain. And like the Dutch, they believed their empire would last forever. At its height, Britain ruled a quarter of Earth's land and people. The sun, they said, would never set on the British Empire. The pound sterling was the global reserve. London, the center of trade, money, and power. Stage 1. Overreach. By 1900, the British flag flew on 6 continents. Troops fought in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Then came the Great War, and to fight it, Britain sold its future. Stage 2. Currency debasement. They left the gold standard, printed endless paper pounds, and flooded markets with debt. When peace returned, their gold was gone, but inflation stayed. Stage 3. Debt spiral. By 1945, 2 world wars later, Britain owed more to the US and Canada than it could ever repay. The empire wasn't conquered. It was mortgaged. Stage 4. Loss of productive capacity. Factories destroyed. Colonies lost. Coal, steel, shipbuilding, the backbone of empire, rusted away. Stage 5. Social decay. Rationing, strikes, unemployment. The illusion of greatness lingered, but the power was gone. The pound collapsed. The empire dissolved. Another superpower fell to the same 7 stages. Part 3. The Soviet Union, the empire that imploded. After World War II, a new empire rose, built not on trade, but on ideology. The Soviet Union believed it had discovered the future itself. It built weapons, satellites, and armies across half the planet. But behind the parades and propaganda, the same disease was spreading. Stage 1. Overreach. 20% of its GDP was spent on the military. The USSR propped up Cuba, Vietnam, Syria, North Korea. A dozen fragile allies draining its blood. Stage 2. Economic stagnation. By the 1970s, its factories made junk. Its farms couldn't feed its own people. Innovation died under bureaucracy. Stage 3. Currency collapse. The ruble became a joke. Citizens hoarded US dollars, not because they loved America, but because they no longer trusted their own system. Stage 4. Loss of empire. 1989. The Berlin Wall fell. 1991. The Soviet Union itself disappeared. No invasion, no coup, just implosion. An empire gone in less than 1,000 days. The pattern repeated again. Overreach, debt, collapse. Part 4. Canada, the quiet collapse. And now, it's happening again. Not in a crumbling dictatorship or fading monarchy, but in one of the world's most peaceful and polite nations. Canada. To outsiders, it looks stable, safe, civilized. But beneath the politeness, the same gears of collapse are already turning. Stage 1. Overreach and dependency. Canada's overreach isn't military, it's economic. A nation built on natural exports, oil, lumber, minerals, selling nearly everything to one buyer, the United States. Over 70% of exports flow south. When oil booms, Canada celebrates. When oil crashes, the whole economy bleeds. That's not prosperity. That's dependence. And as the world moves away from fossil fuels, Canada's model is cracking at its core. Stage 2. Currency debasement. Every empire falls when it starts printing what it can't earn. Canada's money supply has doubled in a decade. During the pandemic, the Bank of Canada printed over $400 billion out of thin air. At first, it felt like magic. Stocks soared, houses skyrocketed. Then came the price. Inflation. Devalued savings. A dollar that buys less every year. Today, the Canadian loonie trades below 74 US cents. The weakest in decades. That's what modern currency decay looks like. Quiet, invisible, and devastating. Stage 3. The debt spiral. The addiction to debt is everywhere. Government debt, over $1.3 trillion. Household debt, nearly 190% of disposable income, one of the worst ratios in the world. Mortgages that take lifetimes to repay. Interest on national debt already exceeds the defense budget. This is what the edge looks like. You can't tax your way out. You can't borrow your way out. You can only fall. Stage 4. Loss of productive capacity. Canada used to build. Now it buys. Factories close. Jobs move abroad. Manufacturing's share of GDP is the lowest in half a century. Imports replace industry. The nation consumes more than it creates. A fatal stage every empire reaches before the fall. And when you stop making, you stop mattering. Stage 5. Social decay. This stage never begins with riots. It begins rot, a housing crisis that locks a generation out of ownership. Homelessness rising in rich cities, mental health collapsing, drug overdoses at record highs, birth rates at record lows, faith in institutions, government, banks, media evaporating, a quiet, polite hopelessness spreading across the nation. That's stage 5, the slow moral bankruptcy before the economic one. Stage 6, loss of global standing. For decades, Canada stood as the calm middle ground, admired, respected, and quietly trusted. It was the nation that didn't shout, didn't provoke, didn't fall into chaos. A bridge between powers, a voice of reason in a noisy world. When other nations fought, Canada mediated. When others postured, Canada listened. Its peacekeeping missions, its diplomacy, its reputation for fairness, all became part of its national myth. People looked to the maple leaf and saw balance, stability, a country that somehow managed to avoid the extremes. But that image is fading. And not because of war or scandal, but because of something more subtle: irrelevance. The numbers tell the story first. Productivity growth, the lifeblood of any modern economy, now ranks the lowest in the entire G7. For years, output per worker has barely moved while competitors surge ahead. Innovation has slowed. Investment in research, manufacturing, and infrastructure has withered. Foreign capital is fleeing, not because it hates Canada, but because it's losing confidence in what Canada offers. Meanwhile, the Canadian dollar drifts downward, quietly, steadily, eroding purchasing power at home and prestige abroad. It's not a crash, it's a slow leak. Every year, a little more value slips away, unnoticed by those too polite to mention it. And on the world stage, Canada's once strong voice grows quieter. Trade negotiations where it once played mediator now happen without it. Alliances it once led now see it as a follower. Global influence has been replaced by polite attendance, presence without power. Decline doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it doesn't look like decline at all. It looks like a country that still waves the same flag, still gives the same speeches, but finds that fewer people are listening. The applause grows softer, the spotlight moves elsewhere, and the world, once eager to hear from Canada, simply moves on. That's what modern decline looks like. Not collapse with noise and smoke, but silence. Not defeat, but being quietly forgotten. Stage 7, collapse. Collapse never arrives with a bang. It creeps, a missed payment, a currency shock, a political fracture. Then suddenly, it's obvious. The Dutch lost their credit. The British lost their colonies. The Soviets lost their country. And Canada. Canada risks losing its greatest asset, trust. When people stop believing the system can fix itself, collapse isn't coming. It's already here. The lesson of the pattern. 3 empires, 3 centuries, 3 collapses, and now 1 nation walking the same road. Each thought it was different. Each said, "It can't happen here." Each was wrong. The Dutch believed their markets were invincible. The British believed their navy was eternal. The Soviets believed their ideology was unbreakable. And Canada believes its stability is permanent. But history, cold, patient, merciless, whispers otherwise. You can't borrow forever. You can't inflate forever. You can't outsource your future forever. Collapse doesn't care how polite you are. It doesn't care about your health care, your democracy, or your intentions. It only cares that you've entered the sequence and refused to leave it. Canada has already crossed 5 of the 7 stages. Stage 6 is forming. Stage 7 waits. Maybe there's still time. Maybe reforms will come. Maybe this time really is different. But history, which has heard those words before, always replies, no one ever thinks they're next, until they are. If this opened your eyes to where Canada really stands in the cycle, subscribe. Because when the Stage 6 becomes Stage 7, you'll want to understand what happened and why. The answers aren't in the future, they're written in the past.